Hey everyone, this is Corey with Casual EDC, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Sebenza 25. A big thank you to Mac from Instagram for loaning me this guy here. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate getting the chance to check this one out. Let's get into some size comparisons here for you. We're going to bring in the Benchmade Bug Out up top, and the Victorinox Cadet, which is the 84mm model, on the bottom here. And I don't have my small Sebenza with me. Right now it's currently with Chris Reeve knives, just getting some work done. But this is the large size if you were to be comparing the two. The 25 only came in the larger size, I believe. So there was not yet a small at that point. Or they didn't offer a small for the 25. Something along those lines, but I know there's only one size here. And yes, it is a Sebenza. You see the finger grooves here that are well known with the Inkosi, but this is the way you distinguish a Sebenza 25 from a Sebenza 21, as well as no locating hole down here, which the 21s used to have. Getting into a little bit about this knife, I don't have the exact specs pulled up here, but I know you're looking at a 3.625-inch blade, so very much a full-size knife. S35VN, titanium, the normal deal you get with a Chris Reeve knife. You know, all made in the USA. They are made in Idaho, which you can see right here, Idaho made. You have blue anodization on the thumb studs, and in this case there's no anodization on the backspacer, but typically you'll see a matchup between the thumb stud and the backspacer on most Sebenza models. What's unique about the Sebenza 25 is that prior to the Inkosi, these were released, and these use the ceramic lock ball. So what that means is hopefully you'll be able to see that there is a bit of a gap in there between where the blade tang is and where the top of the lock bar is. And it's really tough to see. Let me see if I can shine a light in there for you guys. I know it's not the easiest thing to see, but right inside of that crack there, I don't think it's translating too well on camera here. Anyway, there's a small ball making contact with the blade, a ceramic ball, opposed to just the interface here of the titanium. That wears in a small groove over time, which you can see right in front of my finger here. See that little area? That's where the ball contacts the lock interface and creates a nice strong lockup that you don't have to worry about the titanium wearing down over time, and you're not going to get 90-100% lockup as fast. Moving on to ergonomics and just overall cutting ability. This knife is surprisingly ergonomic. I've heard some issues that people have had with these finger grooves with the Inkosi, and as I said, this is a Sebenza, so you know, I'm going to mention that a couple times not to get confused here, because it does look like a drop point Inkosi, minus the little bit of a dip in the blade up here. But it's actually very comfortable. Getting back to the ergonomics here, it fits my fingers pretty well, as long as it's pretty far back in my hand. If I want to move it out into my fingertips for like a lighter cutting task, I wrap my middle finger, goes right around the tip of the lock bar, the ramp of the clip here. Really contacts the middle of my middle finger right down in this area. So that's not the comfiest, but once it's back in the hand like this, it's actually really comfortable to use, to bear down on, to move around. The finger grooves actually work really well for a reverse grip if you needed to grab the knife like that somehow. And yeah, it's interesting. I didn't think I'd be a big fan of the finger grooves. What I started saying earlier is that some people have had some ergonomic problems with the Inkosi with these finger grooves, especially on the small variant. And as I said, this is a larger. But this has plenty of room for my fingers, and I don't have massive hands. I wear a large size glove. I have pretty thick fingers, but not anywhere near some of the hands I've seen on people and that I know people have out there. So if you're worried about that, a large is plenty big for a big hand. You can see I have room to come down or to even choke up on this. And the finger grooves are plenty big for my fingers without a whole lot of wiggle room, but it fits nicely. In terms of the blade, as I said, S35VN, good, nice grind with CRKs. It's not crazy thin, but is definitely a working grind here. So you have a little bit of thickness behind the edge, but nothing too bad. It still cuts cardboard pretty well. It'll do all your food prep stuff. And Sebenza means work in Zulu, if you didn't know that. Chris Reeve is South African, and in the Zulu language, the Sebenza means work. In Kosi, I think means chief as well. There's names to all the knives, the Ununzan, the Manandi. You can find the translations of them online or even on Chris Reeve's website, I believe. But this is known as the worker. It's meant to be put through work. It's a washer knife with a ceramic lock interface, thumb stud deployment, titanium handles, steel blade, like good steel on the blade. It's just meant to be used and worked with, put to work, pry on things, which you're not supposed to do with a knife, but fairly thick blade stock, plenty strong for any kind of cutting task you might need. I've never heard of anyone snapping a blade on these. I'm sure it can happen, but it's not super common. And I mean, you're not going to be prying open paint cans with the tip of this thing, but this is going to be able to take a lot of abuse here. You have real big pivot in this one. It's even bigger than the newer Sebenza pivots, excuse me. So that's one of the things I noticed with this guy. And less screws overall, which is kind of nice. It's just a good knife. There's a reason why this design, this handle design has been continued through the Nkosi, and there's a reason why the Sebenza has moved on from the 21, the 25, and now onto the 31. This is, it's a timeless design, to say the least. It's one of the classics in the knife world, and if you don't have a Sebenza on your list, it's kind of crazy to think about. Either you wouldn't have this on a list because it's A, out of your price range, B, too expensive, I guess is the same thing. You've had one, I guess will be my second reason, and you didn't like it. Or 3 is you've never even heard of this. And if you haven't heard of this, well, prepare to be going down a rabbit hole here. They make these with all sorts of unique designs, inlay patterns, different blade shapes. They offer a Tanto blade and an Insingo blade, which is kind of like a sheep's footy Warncliffe. But there are numerous variants of the Sebenza, and it's just an awesome knife to put in work, to carry around, and for a full-size knife, being as large as it is, it carries really well. I didn't mind having this in the office. I used this 5 days in a row this week to cut open my orange at lunch, and it works great for that. Can you imagine that? A knife taking off an orange peel? Who would have thought? But needless to say, it's a Chris Reeve. It's a really good design. I'm not a big fan of the finger grooves. I definitely prefer the straighter handles from the Sebenza, but they were plenty comfortable and didn't have any issues when in use, aside from that little tiny mention of having it out in the fingers more. The thumb ramp's great on this. It's a little more pronounced on the 25 than it is on the 21 and 31, I believe, but it's still very functional and it feels great in the hand. I don't want to drag this on too long since I haven't had this knife for all that long, but I wanted to be able to give you guys a quick review of it. Big thank you again to Mac for letting me check this out. This was him letting me check this out has been the deciding factor that yes, I am going to end up getting a large Sebenza at some point. He offered to sell me this, which I appreciated, but like I said, not the biggest fan of the finger grooves, and I'm really on the lookout for a large variant that matches the small that I have, which has double lugs and natural micarta inlays, and it's a 31. So if I can find one of those, maybe one day I'll pick it up. Not really in a position to be buying too much right now, but I'm happy and looking forward to adding a large Sebenza 31 to the collection after getting the impressions with this guy. So you won't be upset if you find yourself with a Chris Reeve. You can pick a lot of these up for really cheap, honestly. Not necessarily the 25, but I saw a used small Sebenza sell for $220 in the Chris Reeve knife group on Facebook. So if you want to try one, they are out there for $300 for even less. And it is well worth giving it a shot at the very least. If you buy one and you hate it and you buy it used, you can sell it for what you paid. So there's really no risk being taken on a Sebenza. Just a fair warning that if you really like it, it's going to get expensive quick because Chris Reeves are not cheap. But that's enough rambling on. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate all the support, and I hope you guys have a good one. Take care.